Hello and welcome to another edition of Cranky Gun Reviews. In my last video talking about the Smith & Wesson CSX, I alluded to the fact that I might be getting, or might have already gotten, a Ruger Max-9. Well, I did. This was another one of those just too good to pass up deals. Cabela's had these on clearance in stock. I believe it was around $350, might have even been $315. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to dig up the receipt. But this is something that I was not really planning on buying. I had looked at these a while ago, and when I handled this next to the CSX, I had decided at that time that the CSX was the pistol that I really wanted. However, after looking at these a little bit more and realizing that this has a lot of features that the CSX does not, for the price point, I figured I had to buy one of these as well. So this kind of looks like it was either based on the Ruger Security 9 platform or based on a spin-off of the LCP2 platform. It has that same type of stippling on the frame, the same type of slide serrations, the same little wings on the very back of the slide to give it a little bit better grip when you're racking the slide. And it comes with two 10-round or 12-round magazines. In my particular case, it comes with two 10-round because of the state I live in. And the similarities to this between this and the LC9S is actually pretty striking when you think about it. So as you look down this, it has a pretty standard U-notch rear sight. However, it is a little bit upgraded. It's a metal sight. It has a base plate to be able to put optics on it. And it has a tritium inserted fiber optic front sight. So right from the factory, the sights on this are actually pretty good. But it does have the option to upgrade to a red dot or some other type of optic. Now, Ruger recently released the Ready Dot optic, which sells for around $99 online, and Hop from TFB TV did a much better job at reviewing this than I could ever do, since, especially right now, I don't have one. But for the price, I actually might look into getting one of these. Let's see what Hop had to say about this.
I'm out at the range today with the new Ruger Ready Dot. This is a non-adjustable, non-electronic micro red dot specifically made for the Ruger Max-9. This was officially announced at the NRA annual meeting this year, and it generated quite a lot of discussion. I think a lot of people were understandably skeptical about how well a passively illuminated red dot sight that cannot be zeroed could possibly work. So, it's good enough to hit steel. The Ruger Red Dot is a passively illuminated red dot, so this is not electronic. It doesn't have an LED emitter, it doesn't have a battery. There is instead a fiber optic coil in the back, and that serves as a light collector for whatever ambient light you have available to you, and that projects the dot onto the front lens.
But here's a list of other optics that you can also get for this gun. Now again, as we look over this, the similarities to the takedown features and things like that on the LC9S are there. You can see it has that one little takedown pin with the little window that you have to open to knock that pin out. And while I never really particularly loved that function, they work just great and I've never had a pin fall out. This has the standard Ruger kind of hinge safety trigger, and I will say the trigger on this thing is pretty stinking good. Now, I've handled this next to my LC9S, and both of them have a very similar trigger feel, but the reset on this trigger is much shorter than what you have on the LC9S. Now, going back to handgunhero.com so I can compare this side by side with the LC9S, because really that's the closest thing I have to compare this to. I mean, they're kind of the same series gun. They're both a subcompact 9mm, and they're both made by Ruger. They have similar triggers. Now, if you look at the dimensions on these two guns, the Max-9 length overall is the same. Height is 0.02 inches taller, and width is 0.05 inches wider. It does have a slightly longer barrel, although not much. It will make a little bit of a difference, but again, not much. If we look at capacity, the Max-9 has 10+1 or 12+1, where the LC9S has either 7+1 or 9+1. And if we look at them side-by-side comparison, again, the differences are almost immeasurable on paper. I mean, you're talking, again, hundredths of inches difference between the thickness and the height on these two guns. But you can kind of get a side-by-side comparison of the length of the barrels and how they lay out side-by-side. Now, again, on this Handgun Hero page, if we scroll down to the bottom of the page and we mess with the opacity of the overlay of the two pistols, you can see that, again, it's almost an immeasurable difference between the two guns. The profile of the trigger guard is slightly different. The profile of the back of the slide is also slightly different. But realistically, for all intent and purposes, they're almost exactly the same size gun. And here I can lay them out side by side and show you the similarities between the two of them. Starting with the Max-9, you look at the frame-mounted safety in the same location on the LC9S. If you look at the slide release or the slide stop, again, same location on the LC9S. The takedown pin I already mentioned, it's pretty much exactly the same between the LC9S and the Max-9. And again, you can see the different shape of the trigger guards, but they have very similar triggers. I will say when you feel the trigger side by side, the trigger on the Max-9 has a shorter reset and it doesn't feel quite as springy, if that makes sense. But the weight on the two of these feels just about the same. So here you can see the difference between the sights on the two, and this is the LC9S that has the better fiber optic sights. Again, you can see the 10-round magazine that came with my Max-9. I got 2 magazines with it versus the 7-round magazine that comes with the LC9S, which when I purchased this LC9S, it also only came with 1 magazine. I guess the version that had the upgraded sights was around $359 when it was on sale, again at Cabela's, and those only came with 1 magazine. So the Max-9, for the price that I bought it for, was a fantastic value. I think when those first came out, they were around $500. And again, I was waiting for one to come way down in price before I would even consider buying them. And realistically, in the hand, that slightly wider grip feels a little bit better in my hand, and I like the stippling on the Max-9 better than the LC9S. Here you can see, just as I have with most of my other guns, I purchased an MDJ brand holster off of eBay. I've said it before, these are my absolute favorite holsters. They're inside the waistband tuckable holsters, and they're a hybrid made out of leather and Kydex. Again, I recommend if you buy one of these from MDJ holsters, put a note in the comments saying you want the plastic belt clips. They're far better than the metal ones, only because they're plenty strong, they're very adjustable, and they don't scratch the finish off of my chairs in my kitchen. That, and I would tear little holes in my shirt when I would use a cover garment. So this is meant to be a very quick overview video of the Ruger Max-9. I apologize that I haven't had any shooting footage in quite a while. I've just had a rash of family parties and extraneous amounts of work, so I hope to get out to the range very soon. Thanks for watching. God bless America. Make sure you support your two-way rights. Get out there and shoot. And you remember, if someone asks you to give up some of your freedom for the greater good, remind them that freedom is the greater good.